and want to. Welcome, everyone. It's the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. It's a special one, the 50th anniversary. This is Mark Janes. Happy to bring you all of the action as we get set for the first practice session of the weekend. We welcome in Davey Hamilton. And Davey, boy, as if this event isn't prestigious enough, there's added excitement to it with this being the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, how about that, Mark? It's exciting to be here. First of all, I get up this morning to come down and do two-seaters right off, and when you come through the grid and you see the Formula 5000 cars, the original cars to run this race here at Long Beach, then you see the Formula 1 cars, the era that they ran here, then you see some of the older INDYCAR styles back in the day. So just seeing those cars just tells you that 50 years, it's been a long time, but seeing all the history here and seeing all the winners' names on this track's trophy is pretty cool.
Of all the things that's planned over the course of the weekend, that was the one that Jim McKellion told us a couple of weeks ago he was most proud of, is to have all of the cars throughout the storied history of this event being represented throughout the course of the weekend. And the Long Beach Grand Prix has a long and storied history, Davey. Allinger Jr., the king of Long Beach, won it more than anybody else, but let's face it, outside of the Indianapolis 500, I think except for maybe like Graham Rahal, who always wanted to win Mid-Ohio, I think every driver up and down this grid wants to get to victory lane at Long Beach.
Yeah, no question about it, Mark. This is the track. This is the place. Besides the Indy 500, this is the place you want to win. But when it comes to any other race, you want your name on the Long Beach Grand Prix. It's just so special. Matter of fact, you know, as we can see, Mark, all the people that are here today, I mean, it's just Friday. It's just practice day. They're packed in here. They're having fun. It's a full weekend of excitement. There's no question about it. And putting your name on this trophy, matter of fact, you say Al Jr., you know, he owned this place for a while. Seen him last night, seen Mario this morning. They're co-grand marshals. It's great to see them here. Plus, you know, it seems like this race brings everybody here. You know, I see Don Perdone from drag racing in here. A lot of the older crew guys from Mark Wida, engineer, that's here. I mean, everybody wants to make this race. It's pretty cool.
And one of the reasons why this place is so special is because of the picture-perfect weather. For the specifics on that, a longtime veteran of this radio network, but with us for the first time this season, we welcome in Ryan Marine.
Hey, Mark, it is picture-perfect weather here in Long Beach, as we've come to expect over the years. Every once in a while, we've seen little sprinkles of rain pop up in a practice session over the years, but race day over the years, 50 of them, in fact, it's been perfection, and it's perfection right now. It didn't start that way, though, guys, because as some of the sports car series that are also running here this weekend took to the track this morning, the marine layer over the bay, over the ocean, had still was still lingering over the racetrack itself. There was quite a bit of fog until about 9:30 this morning. That has since burned off. Right now we're looking at just a few light clouds overhead, but mostly blue skies. A nice breeze coming off the water as well to keep the temperatures relatively cool. We do see about 90-degree ambient temperatures, and the track temperatures have now climbed up to about 117 degrees. But all in all, it's a very pleasant day to be trackside here at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
A pleasant day it is, indeed. Picture perfect weather. And Davey Hamilton, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I think it's going to be a common theme throughout the course of this season, and I think we're watching it unfold. Tire strategy with all of the changes that have been made to the compound and the allotment and the rules in terms of when and where they can be used. A lot of gamesmanship throughout the course of the weekend, and to that end, this is a single 45-minute all skate. Then we'll break it down into two groups of 10, even-numbered pit boxes, odd-numbered pit boxes. They get 5 sets of the primaries, they get 5 sets of the alternates, and because of that, drivers went in, did the install app, and they have parked it.
Yeah, that's right, Mark, and that's what's going to happen here just for a little while. As you said, it's been a guessing game for all these teams. The first race at St. Pete is the same thing. They're going, when we want to run the alternates, do we want primaries? Which is it going to be? Which is going to be the faster in the race? And they said, well, we had to get the alternates just wore too quick. They lost speed quickly, so they got them off. We go to thermal, same question. None of these teams really knew exactly what to do, but they're going into that race, and even during the race, they're still not even sure if that alternate was going to make it, but it did. That was the best tire of choice. And so what they have to do in these practices, Mark, is they may have to make sure they save whichever tire is best for the race for the race. They have to save some, put some aside. Now, you can remember the alternate tire. They want to use it for qualifying as well. You know, that's where, you know, how you get on the poles, them alternate tires. You just hope you don't wear them out. So this tire strategy that Firestone has brought us this year, I really like it. I think it's keeping the teams guessing. It's keeping all of us guessing as a strategist. And by the way, it's great for the fans just to play it out with us, to see what tire's the best and who's going to be fast win. And as we've seen at Thermal, you know, Pelot made up like 11, 12 seconds on Pato, and it was pretty amazing. I thought there was no way, but the tire strategy and just the way they worked it worked out on their side, and they were able to pull off another win, 2 in a row.
So it's the 50th anniversary of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, and there is simply no way that we can celebrate and accurately cover the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach without inviting in a longtime member of this radio network. He covered a lot of these. As a matter of fact, we were talking before we went on. The first one he ever covered, he drove all the way out to California from Indianapolis in an RV, and we welcome in the longtime member of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network and INDYCAR Radio, Paul Page. Welcome to the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Thank you, Mark Janes, and so good to be with the gang once again, and especially when you're talking Long Beach, California. What a difference 50 years makes. When I first came here, it was really a Formula 5000 race, and I came out with the Patrick Racing team, and Long Beach was a mess. It was the main streets, the Sodom and Gomorrah was playing at the theater up on Ocean, and I actually have a picture of a guy in the window across the street from the track of a building that they were tearing down with a brown bag and a bottle in it, watching Formula One and Mario Andretti go by. So you think about then and look at it now, and it still blows me away. It's not Indy, but it is definitely the second on the whole circuit.
Well, they have their Legends walk, and of course Scott Dixon, one of those going in, but a guy that I quite frankly, on the one hand, it doesn't surprise me that he's not gone in, because he always talks about we and us instead of me. But, I mean, he is as much a part of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach and defines it as much as anybody. We talked to him a couple of weeks ago, Jim McKellion.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim's been here right from the get-go. Took it over from Chris Pook, and now, of course, working for Roger Penske. If anybody knows this track, it is him. And the thing nice about him is that he loves it. It's not just a business. He absolutely loves being part of this. Every time you see him, he's got a bright smile on his face, and usually has a pretty good joke to hand off as well.
Paul, we look forward to having you with us throughout the course of the weekend for sure. And as we mentioned, just a handful of drivers turning laps right now. Of course, those rookies, Davey, they get that extra set, and one of the drivers that's taking full advantage of that is out turning laps right now, and that is Louis Foster. And I won't say that Louis has stumbled out of the gate, but it's been a bit of a struggle for him. He started 16th, finished 27th at St. Pete, started 10th and finished 24th at Thermal Club.
Yeah, not what he wanted, right? I mean, we know that talent he showed us last year and what he could do in a race car and the Indy Next, and he has this right for a reason, no question about it. But it's been a tough start for him. You know, got involved with that first lap hiccup down there at St. Petersburg, and just things haven't gone the way he wants. But the good news for those three drivers, as you mentioned, they get an opportunity, and that is the three drivers. Obviously, is Prema Racing with Schwartzman. Matter of fact, some bad luck for him too this year so far, and then obviously Abel. So those three cars, we're going to see them on track. They need the lap time. They haven't been here in an Indy car before, and they need to figure out what this track is like. Now, another thing on the track, I'll go to track just real quickly, is they've changed some curbing just a little bit, Mark. In turn 8, the curbing's gone. They're just using the wall, which is good. We see so many jam-ups there in turn 8, but it's a faster corner. You get to that right-hander better. I expect it to be a little bit better racing and not so much carnage, hopefully, in that corner this year.
Yeah, we have seen drivers go side by side in there, and only one of them comes out. My next question is, Davey, leading up to turn number 9. We've talked about it for a number of years. To driver's left, right up against that outside retaining wall. There's been a noticeable bump there for a number of years. Wonder if that's still there.
It is. It's still there. Matter of fact, that's interesting. I'm going to watch the drivers today. Like I say, I've been on track already a few times, given some rides, and I try to stay away from that bump because it does affect the braking zone there, and you want to be high to get that right-hander into there, Mark. But boy, it's pretty rough. And another thing that's a little deceiving there is the shadows, because you get a lot of shadows from the buildings. You can't really see your braking points really well, and those bumps. And between those two things, it's difficult to hit it right every time. I try to stay to the right just a little bit, try to stay away from that bump, but obviously it doesn't give you a great angle of that corner either.
Back to the discussion about tires. Firestone providing more than 1,500 race tires, Davey, for the 27 entries. And Kara Kristalik said in their release this week that for the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, Firestone is providing the same design, construction, and compound as those that were taken to the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. She added that while the softer alternate tire will be quicker and have more grip than the primary tire, its lower compound durability means we'll probably see cars coming in for pit stops before the end of the fuel stint. So we can expect the tire strategy to be very, very similar to what we saw in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I'll have to say this, you know, the track is pretty fast. I'm impressed. The rubber's down. There's been other divisions on there. We talked about the opening, matter of fact, turn 5, it seems like the curbs are a little farther to the right. Turn 8, they're not there. The bump at turn 9 is going to, you know, keep them honest, but they're going to have some speed around here. It's a pretty fast street course for sure, and it's going to be hard on the tires.
Hard to believe over
We unfortunately have lost INDYCAR Radio. We will hopefully rejoin with them shortly. I'll just give them a refresh and see if that helps. 35 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock for this Practice 1 session here for the 50th Grand Prix of Long Beach. Currently Louis Foster, Jacob Abel, and hopefully joining me in the commentary box, if everything is set up correctly on audio before I sort the cameras out, Joshua Birch is with us. Hello, JB.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're all good. Hello.
Nice, hello, yeah, just coming in quick and making sure everything's okay. Well, what an interesting little prospect we've had to have to hop in and commentate on a session. I'm glad I'm just getting some TV pictures up so I can see the same thing that you are. But yeah, 50th anniversary of Long Beach. I actually get to do a bit of Long Beach. That was a surprise. I'm just sitting here for NASCAR.
Yeah, that's only because INDYCAR Radio has gone down, so luckily it wasn't just me in the background production booth. JB was here as well, so getting ready for NASCAR, so we pulled him in.
Yeah, it just makes a lot more sense. And I know Omi's behind because he's getting ready for our TikTok stuff that he's getting ready. So we've all just been getting set up, ready to go. But yeah, me and you have been in a call and we've got ourselves set up, ready to go. Bang on time. Right, I've got the pictures and I'll even give you some track audio in the background here behind my voice.
It's very music-y.
Believe it or not, that is coming from the world feed.
Is it?
That's coming from Fox. I have absolutely no idea why, but that was coming from Fox. Okay.
I can also hear it.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Okay, well, we've got 33 minutes. Can you hear me through this mic? If I go...
Yes, yes, I can. Thank you for deafening me and...
Sorry, and everyone watching. Okay, so... Cast in the pit lane, obviously, which is all good. If you want to go battle screen, feel free. I'll hold this mic.
Hold on. Let's go over to Timon 71 as well, because I've just realised the INDYCAR website Timons have frozen.
Oh, everything's gone down as it. Oh dear.
As well, and well, there's no point going to Timon 71 because I don't think that's working anyway.
With INDYCAR recently, me and Omi had to fill about a 25-minute break with no live timings last time out. And now we've got these problems here as well.
Okay,
honestly,
so
it's shocking.
The timings are working, the clock is not.
Right, so timing's working, but clock isn't. Okay. I suppose we'll take a 50-50.
But I think battle screen with Timon 71 at the moment will be better than INDYCAR. I heard track noise.
I have got track noise. Yes, I should provide it while we have it. We've got Foster on top for McLaughlin, Schwartzman, Power, Rob, Rasmussen, Siegel, Simpson, Ferrucci, VK and Abel at the moment. By the way, they've been adjusting the timing screen. They've got it working a bit better on Fox.
I've seen that, and I'm just going to get up the INDYCAR practice groups if I can find it. Here it is. Bob Pokras has posted it. In Group 1 is the number 10, the 3, the 5, the 27, the 21, 28, 77, 6, 66, 4, 18 and 90, and in Group 2 is the 26, 12, 9, 2, 7, 14, 68, 15, 76, 20, 30, and then the rookies that are allowed to take part in both groups. At the end of this 30-minute session remaining, it's 40-minute total, 30 minutes left on that. The rookies are, of course, the 83, the 45, and the 51.
Officially, it's deemed as a too tight a circuit to put all the cars out in a practice, so they have gone on street circuits recently as well. They do it on some road courses. I think we see it at Road America a little bit, but they do split between the two, don't they? And it makes a lot more sense.
40-minute session with all cars, and then they do 10 minutes each split.
Yeah, makes sense. And it's the safest option, and everybody's guaranteed a red tyre run towards the end of it, which I think it makes it all a bit more fairer, I would assume, going into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will change to a wired mic, actually, so we've got a bit better to go on. Give me a minute.
The road, but then it's also a little bit of the buffeting
between a Hitchman fire suit and others.
Well, we had INDYCAR radio for like a couple of seconds.
Those of you looking to go on a fun vacation.
So they're on ads, so let's mute that. Let's go back to the world feed.
LED displays on the left and right of the cockpit explaining the hybrid.
I mean, the sound
just got a lead.
is
Yeah, it's like it's trying to break through, isn't it, JT? It's coming up a little bit with the radio.
And I've got ads on the INDYCAR radio, so I'm going to mute that in my ears.
Well, we're watching at the moment. We're on board with, I believe, one of the McLarens coming into the braking zone through the first two corners and past the fountain section as well. I'm delighted, actually. Now, Jackson Lambert is his trackside, and we'll hopefully be getting a little bit from him over the weekend as well, with some action. And it's going to be Tom and JT and Omi in the box on Sunday, and then hopefully INDYCAR Radio will be taking you through it. I, on the other hand, am on NASCAR duty this weekend, so slightly regretting my choice. First, so that's why I have to be. Bristol, baby, after all. I suppose it bumpers it up nicely going forward as well.
This broadcast is going so well. We are lost you for around 5 seconds, JB.
Oh.
But you're back.
It could have been worse if that fire had happened as well. Even more worse than what we had. We had to have the fire brigade out. That's why I wasn't on Formula E, if you're wondering.
Yeah, I once again had to do another stream, which I was not scheduled to do.
Well, we're down an oven and the kitchen's burned, so going well.
Will power on top. Scott McLaughlin, Stingray Rob, David Malukas, and Christian Rasmussen. Your top 5 as Fox, you'll never guess it, I believe, have gone to an ad break with just over 28 minutes to go.
It's not really great, is it? The amount of times they keep going to adverts again and again and again. And INDYCAR Radio's back.
Yes.
Excellent. Right, I'll stop talking. Good. Enjoy Long Beach, everybody. Enjoy it. And JT, good luck in the lead role this weekend.
Yes, and we will hopefully not have to come back later on in the broadcast.
Thanks, Alex. Best of luck.
Well, if you're looking for a place, Davey Hamilton, that you want Alex Palou to maybe cool off a bit, this might not be the right place. In 4 starts here, he's finished 3rd, 5th, 3rd, and 4th.
Alex Palou, your reigning champ and reigning winner from both rounds this season.
You know he wants to win for sure.
Yeah, there's no question. And some of the numbers, Davey, 84 starts all told, 13 wins. And in 84 starts, he has 45 top 5s and 60 top 10s.
Yeah, unbelievable, right? That record, you think, okay, nobody's that good, but we'll talk about it later. But I did find one driver that actually has a better record in those 83 starts than Alex Palou, but that is just unbelievable in today's era of how fast these cars are, how competitive they are, and him to be able to do what he has done with 3 championships, going for 3 in a row now, which would be 4 championships, in that amount of starts and the wins that he has is amazing.
And Paul, we can't dismiss, and we had Jonathan reference that intentionally. The relationship that he has with his strategist, Barry Wanzer, I mean, those guys are on the same page. We talked to Davey about this, Paul. That's the most important relationship in motorsports, I think, that one between the race strategist and the driver.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear you talk about it, because that's one of the things that is so critical, and yet it's not often mentioned. The fact that you can get a Barry Wanzer and he just looks at him and knows he's wanting this, he's wanting that, and then that your ability for a guy like Wanzer to look at what Pato's doing, or what pardon me, our champion is doing.
Yep.
Yes, excuse me, but that he looks at the data and then he looks at what he's being told, and finally the conversation comes that the data and the driver match up, and then you know you've really got something put together.
Pato Award is checked into his pit box, Davey, for a look-see. He brushed the wall. And I guess the good news is, Davey, that's the only time anybody will brush the wall this weekend at Long Beach. I mean, it's it's rather uneventful.
It's who's going to be the first and who's going to be the last, because it's going to be a lot of them in between. But it looks like they're checking over his car a little bit there in the pit box. Doesn't look, I actually have them right down below. It doesn't look like a lot of damage there, if any. Just checking it. But that's, man, you know, when you have walls on both sides of you the entire way around this racetrack, it's bound to happen, and Pato was the first one to get it done.
Well, in a couple of weeks, we're headed to Birmingham, and you'll hear things like the Alabama roller coaster and Charlotte's Web. And one of the things that you hear here at Long Beach is the hairpin. And all the years that you and I have been doing this together, you maintain that in terms of the setup of your race car, there is no more important portion for your car to be rock solid in this racetrack than is on and off of that hairpin.
Yeah, it's getting off of that hairpin, power down, keep your momentum through it, and power down, because that is the longest straightaway. Turn 1 is the best passing zone on this course, and so that long straightaway that actually, it's not straight, it curves to the right as you go around, but that is such a great passing zone, and it all starts with coming off of that final turn 11, and that's, you know, you need to definitely work on your traction coming off of there.
So, Davey, we'll talk a little bit more throughout the course of the weekend about the events at Thermal Club. We want to point out some good runs by some drivers. Christian Lundgaard, and let's face it, as a team, Arrow McLaren had a good weekend, had all 3 cars in the top 10. Felix Rosenquist with the top 5 finish. Marcus Armstrong continues to be solid. He was 7th. You heard Kyle Kirkwood, Alexander Rossi. They stayed hot. Scott Dixon finishes in the top 10. Graham Rahal, I'll tell you, Davey, one of these days, Graham is going to make the Firestone Fast 6 and win a race, because he started 18th at Thermal and finished 11th.
Well, one good thing they have going for Mark, they won the pit stop competition here yesterday, or last night. So that was a little boost to coming into this weekend. And you're right, we've talked about it for years with Graham, is his race pace is really good. I mean, if you look at the cars passed, or positions gained, I should say, over the last few years, I bet Graham is one of the highest. The downside with that is, Mark, that means you're starting in the back of the field and have passed a lot of guys, because the qualifying effort just has not been there. And we continue to talk about it. Man, if he can qualify good, he starts towards the front of the race, watch out, because we're going to see Graham Rahal in victory lane again. And don't be surprised that's not sooner than later. I think that team, they're doing everything they can. Matter of fact, they just hired Jay Fry. He's team manager or team principal now over at Rahal Letterman. They're not... it's all expense. I mean, whatever it takes, you go for it. Let's win races, and that's what they're doing.
Well, Davey said the stars are out, and that includes on the pit lane. A couple of NTT IndyCar Series veterans. Ryan Marine's caught up with them.
Yes, and a pair of Californians who know a thing or two about racing here on the streets of Long Beach. Charlie Kimball and J.R. Hildebrand joining us. What do you guys talk about when you're having a little reunion here in the pit lane in Long Beach, Charlie?
Well, it seems like these days we talk about being dads and kids and what fun projects we're working on.
So it's changed a little.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved. Our lives have evolved. I was just getting caught up on his High Rocks experience with Joseph Newgarden. How training for that versus competition, and it's amazing how practice and racing in High Rocks is very similar to IndyCar. They're not the same.
Well, I've heard you talk about this before, but this may need a little explanation for others. First of all, what is High Rocks, and then how did you get talked into doing this madness?
Yeah, High Rocks, as far as I'm concerned, is just a thing that Joseph Newgarden roped me into doing with him. But it's sort of a fitness competition that's maybe derived a little bit from CrossFit with a little bit more of an endurance angle. So you run you run 8 1K runs, and in between all of those 1Ks are 8 sort of strength-based stations. You're just timed from start to finish. Of course, we jumped right into the deep end doing the men's pro division straight away, so all the heaviest weights, all the longest distances, all that stuff. But you know, it's always fun in the off seasons to have something to do and to keep fresh with my guy.
One person's fun is another person's torture, but you know, to each their own. Your recollections of racing here. We'll start with you, JR, about racing in Long Beach and how special of an event this is to be a participant in, especially as a Californian.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I've got great memories from being here. You know, a number of top 5s in the INDYCAR series and a win in the Indy Lights Championship. This was kind of what really kicked off my championship season in Indy Lights. So, you know, always good memories of that time racing with guys like Charlie, Hinch, who's up in the booth here, I guess, this weekend. But it's a great place to come. I mean, I feel like even when it was out of sync in the COVID year, like you get here and there's just such a great vibe. The weather always seems to pan out over the race weekend. Maybe raining 2 days before, raining 2 days afterwards. It's bright and sunny here this weekend. Going to cool off for everybody even. So you really just can't get any better than that. It's such a long-standing spot on the schedule that you just learn to look forward to it every year.
Yeah, and following on from what JR said, I mean, I remember as a kid coming down here and getting autographs from guys like Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vassar in the paddock, and then sitting on tuggers as the fog rolled in at night while my dad was still in engineering meetings talking about redesigning wheel nuts and drive shafts. And for me, the chance to have come back as a driver and been on the other side of the catch fencing, seeing such a great group of friends and family in Grandstand 6, it was always so neat. And the fact that it's the 50th anniversary this year, this track, this event means so much to the people of Southern California, the people within INDYCAR as well, all the teams, the drivers, the mechanics, everyone loves coming here because it is such a great place to go racing.
What's on the agenda the next couple of days for you guys?
Well, I'm coming back on Sunday for the race because you can't miss the 50th Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Yeah, just cruising, soaking it all in, and hanging out and kind of chatting with everybody who you get to know over the years through the paddock. I think that's, you know, one of the things any IndyCar IndyCar race you come to. Obviously, we've got IMSA here this weekend too. You know, we've both been a little like 1 foot in, 1 foot out maybe over the last couple of years, and you realize that you're all just a lot more similar than you are different in this paddock. So it's always fun to see familiar faces and you know, just get caught up.
Great to see you both.
Thank you.
Good stuff, Ryan Marine. You might want to work your way toward the pit box of Potawatomi Ward because they're doing a lot of work along the left rear corner of that race car. And Davey, looks like it was a pretty significant kiss of that outside retaining wall for the driver of the Arrow McLaren machine.
Yeah, it looks like a rear toe link they have off, but it also looks like they're working on the drive shaft, what we call half shafts in these cars, that puts the power between the gearbox and those tires, and it looks like that was out. I see the boot off of a lot of grease down in that area, so it may have hit hard enough to where it actually bent one of those suspension links, and they're working on the toe link again right now, I see, and but it looks like they're still taking stuff apart rather than putting it together, which is not a good sign.
It's turned into an all-skate here with about 19 minutes remaining in this session, and Alex Palou, your points leader, has gone to P1 at 67, 6.364. Joseph Newgarden, Felix Rosenquist, Will Power, and Scott McLaughlin the top 5, so Penske flexing some early muscle in this session. Kirkwood Armstrong, Malukas, O'Ward, and Scott Dixon through 10th. Dixon's at a 1:13.0351. Then Louis Foster, Marcus Ericsson, Graham Rahal, and Christian Rasmussen. Kyle Kirkwood, Devlin DiFrancesco, Kiffin Simpson, Colton Herter, Renus VK, Robert Schwartzman, Alexander Rossi, Christian Lundgaard, Connor Daly, Siegel, Ferrucci, Abel, and Eilon. All 27 cars have turned laps now with 17 minutes remaining in this session. Davey has been employed now through the first couple of events. I kind of like this format where you get a 45-minute all-skate, and then they divide the field in half and give these guys a chance to maybe do some qualifying sims in those 2 10-minute sessions.
Yeah, you know, I think it's good as well because it's always great to have all the cars out there, right? You know what it's like in race conditions. It's busy. You get frustrated because there's a lot of cars on the racetrack and you're trying to avoid them all the time. But then it's also really good, as you just said, Mark, get some open tracks. See what your car's going to do in clean air and really learn this racetrack, because one thing about any street course, especially I think here at Long Beach, even though these drivers, you know, you've got lap after lap and you really know the racetrack, it's always finding that little bit of extra, and you know as a driver where you may be lacking or where you're really good, but those lacking spots you need to get better on, and it gives you a chance to really hone in on those.
Scott Dixon currently 10th fastest, as we said. His speed has picked up a little bit now. Dixon setting at a 68.3338. He is the defending race winner, and Jonathan Graves caught up with him earlier today.
So Scott Dixon here ahead of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach is typically a pretty good venue for Ganassi cars. It's been a pretty good year for the Ganassi cars. Your teammate Alex Palou has gone 1-2 so far. You finished right behind him on the streets of St. Pete here, the second street course of the season. How are you feeling going into the weekend?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. You know, I think the cars have definitely been strong. I think, you know, without the hiccup I had in qualifying at Thermal, you know, and then we kind of got marred in the middle of the pack, and it was a bit of a uneventful race for us. And, you know, kudos to the 10-car group and Alex. You know, they've done a hell of a job right out the gate. And, yeah, somebody has to kind of slow their roll, you know, pretty quickly here. But, you know, I know they'll keep pushing on. It was a great race for us here last year. I think in general it's been a great track for Ganassi, and, you know, we'll try and continue on that success.
Well, I think a good race for you last year is an understatement. You're the defending winner here, and now a chance to potentially do it again on the 50th anniversary of this great race. Just reflect on the history of the race and your history at this race as well.
Yeah, looking forward to it. You know, I think it's one of the few races, you know, that you get to kind of celebrate a 50th anniversary, you know, and I think here, especially with the history, you know, the first race with Brian Redman, you know, Formula 5000 to you know, an almost 10-year stretch of Formula 1 here for the Grand Prix of the West. Lots of cool stats, and I think that's what, you know, it's similar to Indy and the fact that, you know, those things and the people that came before you make it such a special event. But, you know, I think what, you know, the Long Beach Association, you know, and the city of Long Beach have created over a 50-year period is something very special, and just happy that INDYCAR is, you know, the mainstay here, and you know, I love to see them carry on the tradition, obviously, for another 50 years.
Well, Scott, let's get a little more nitty-gritty here for a second before I let you go. One of the unknowns and one of the talking points this year is the fact that the Indy cars will have the hybrid systems on board for Long Beach for the first time. How is that going to affect the racing? And more importantly, how is that going to affect the tires? Because from a tire perspective, this could be a very different race than last year.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think everybody would be worried about the option tire, the alternate, whether it can go, you know, the stint. Everybody bailed on them pretty early in St. Pete. There were a couple of cars that kind of got, you know, sort of 20 laps out of them, which this is a much lower energy circuit. So, you know, it just difficult. A lot of changes. Obviously, the car weight's a lot heavier. You know, the track distance, also the track or the race distance has changed by another 5 laps too. So there's a lot of different things strategy-wise that have made it very different. But we won't really get a fair idea until we get out here and practice and understand what the tire's going to do.
Well, best of luck with the rest of the weekend, Scott. We'll be watching.
Thanks, man. Cheers. Thanks.
13 minutes remaining in the session. Palou, Newgarden, Rosenquist, Power, and McLaughlin, the top 5. Paul Page, he's a 6-time champion, 405 career starts this weekend, 342nd consecutive start on Sunday, 58 wins, 28 poles, 212 top 5s, 299 top 10s, and before he's done, he's going to lead well over 7,000 laps, and we've been honored and blessed to have seen one of the all-time greats.
Oh, absolutely. The guy, he shows you everything. He's the complete driver, and as he lays down the laps and watch him, especially, I tend to watch the right front tire, and in his case, he puts it in exactly the same place every lap he does. If I can, going back to the first Formula 1 race, which was 76, this track was entirely different.
Yeah.
Shoreline led to a very tight hairpin. Clay Regazzoni won that one in a Ferrari, but they also raced up on Ocean Boulevard, which ran them up a hill, across the ocean, and back down a hill. Now they don't do that, but this track is as exciting with much more passing than I think the original configurations did.
Yeah, and each and every year, Davey, because of the fact that it is a street course, we've talked about the bumps, well documented where we see them, like at the entrance to 9. But with a street course, you show up, and from one year to the next, a different bump appears that you're not expecting.
Yeah, you know, that's right, because it's just the streets. Now, one thing with Long Beach, they don't get the snow and the heavy frost, and we do in the Midwest and the East Coast, but it does get weather changes. I mean, there's a lot of water that comes through here, a lot of traffic. That's another thing. These roads, during the week, a lot of cars travel all these, and it just changes. Asphalt gets really hot here. It gets, you know, I mean, it's on the coast, but you're still in California. You get your hot days, the sun beating down on it. and it does change, year in, year out. Now, I'll have to say, it felt good to me. I felt like, okay, this is a great racetrack this weekend. There's still a few bumps. There's still some character in it. There's still things you have to watch for. I feel like they've opened up a few corners to make it a little bit quicker, and hopefully that could help out on some passing zones as well.
Yeah, you might see the logo blurred a little bit on both sides of those Firestone Firehawks for the 21 of Christian Rasmussen, Davey. He's literally been flinging that thing around this course.
Yeah, watching him for a while now, and I see he's 14th on the speed chart with that Ed Carpenter Racing team, or I shouldn't say Ed Carpenter, he's partners now in that team, but he's doing a really good job. I mean, but you're right. I think he had a little bit of contact coming out of turn 1, and he's flinging around. But right now, he, it looks like that car's pretty stable. He's right in the middle of the field. Like I say, at 14th, he's halfway right in the middle of it. So they're going to continue to work it right in front of him. Colton Herta, Ray Hall, and Erickson, and then Dixon in 10th right in front of him.
Well, and I think as a team, ECR Racing, as it's now known, Davey, has to be thrilled. Alexander Rossi, 10th at St. Pete, 9th at Thermal. And how about Christian Rasmussen, 15th at St. Pete and 12th at Thermal?
Yeah, no, really respectable. And I think, they kept him for a reason. They really liked what they see in him. And I think he's doing a good job. And talking to Ed, I think he's just a good fit with that team. And then you bring Rossi in with all the experience that he has. I also think that's a good fit. I think everybody's getting along over there. I think that team, it does have a different look, right? I mean, when we've seen Ed Carpenter Racing at ECR, it sounds the same really characters, but there's something different there. You could just see it, that the team looks more energized. It seems like they're in focus to be a little more competitive and to get on top of the charts once again. So I'm excited about those two drivers with that team.
We want to take full advantage of this day and Ryan Marine's ability to navigate pit road rather freely. Ryan, that will not be the case on Sunday. We dispatched you to the pit box of Pato Award knowing you could get there easily. So you've had a chance to kind of pour over that car now, watch the team do their work. What can you update us on?
Well, I'll say easily is relative. It is easier today to navigate this pit lane than it will be on Sunday, but it's still pretty packed, which speaks to the amount of fans that have come out here to Long Beach on this Friday, which is always great to see. I can report, though, that the repairs continue for the number 5 Chevrolet Pato Award. All the attention focused on that left rear corner, as we've chronicled. And quite frankly, I think Davey's view of it is better than mine is. But what I can tell you is that they have several spare suspension pieces sitting up on the wall, getting ready to replace the damaged pieces. And they're continuing to work hard. I think it's about 4 or 5 crew members now that are all working on that left side. Pato Award is still in the car, though, which would indicate that the intentions are to get him back out on track in this practice session, and he'll need it because, quite frankly, this has not been a good venue for him over the years. Finished 5th in 2022, but outside of that, no top 10 finishes, and he's only finished on the lead lap twice in 5 previous starts. So not definitely the best track for Pato over the course of his career, but he still loves coming to this place. However, his work is cut out for him here with that early incident in practice.
One thing we have learned, though, Davey, through the first couple of races, which is, I think, something that we're just, quite frankly, getting used to, just like these teams and drivers are. If there is a silver lining to the dark cloud of having an issue on Friday, the one thing it does do is it does make your tire strategy a bit simpler throughout the rest of the weekend. You've got a full complement of tires for the practice and qualifying on Saturday, and a full complement once you get to race day.
Yeah, no, that's good, right? I mean, you're exactly right, and that's a situation where, everybody is still, trying to figure out exactly where they want to be. Now, after this session, I really think I think the first sessions of a weekend really kind of tell the story, and everybody's kind of got to go from there. The guys that are on top of the charts, the guys that are at the bottom of the charts, the ones that feel like they have a really good race car to start with, the ones that feel that they're way out, and the ones that are good, they already know. They say, okay, this tire, we got X amount of laps. Matter of fact, Mark, on the lap counts right now, you got Plo with 11, Rosenquist with 11, McLaughlin with 12. They're starting to log some laps, and they're seeing what these tires can do, seeing what the difference is every time they go out. So I think they're going to get a better handle on this race. One thing that Dixon did say, this track is less abrasive. It's easier on the tire than the first race in St. Petersburg, Florida. But it's still, I mean, they're going fast, and there's, they're going to be laying it on the line, and I think the tires are going to be abused pretty good. I have a feeling that it's going to be just really tight still for the alternates to make it a good full stint.
Alex Below continues to say, come and get me, boys. He's won the first 2 races, looking to three-peat as the series champion, and he finds himself P1 now with less than 7 minutes to go in the session, but a good start to the weekend, Davey, for a couple of other race teams. Team Penske with Newgarden second, Power fourth, McLaughlin fifth, and how about Myers-Shank and their teammates Felix Rosenqvist and Marcus Armstrong? They were in the top 6.
Not really surprised with that. I mean, they've been running really good, right? I mean, Rosenqvist, I mean, he had poles last year. He did everything but win, but he just showed how impressive he was. And with that relationship right now between them, and it was Andretti, now it's with Ganassi, and it really looks, if you look at their cars and the Ganassi cars, you can tell that they're working together. Their times are almost on top of each other. But Rosenqvist and Armstrong, another one, don't be surprised when they get in victory lane, because it could be sooner than later, but those are 2 great drivers, and they're ready to put that thing in victory lane for sure.
I mean, you look at Marcus Armstrong, and he's just been quietly efficient, Davey. Yeah. I mean, 32 starts in his career coming up. He has 4 top 5s and 14 top 10s. Had a 7th place finish and a 7th place start at Thermal. And how about 2 starts here at Long Beach? Last year he started in the top 10 and finished 12th and had a top 10 finish in 2023. Armstrong might be one of those guys, and I know it's a tired old cliche, but it's not a question of if he'll win a race, it's more like when.
I feel that, Mark. And one thing I look at Armstrong, and 2 drivers out there, Frucci and Armstrong, very small drivers, very small in stature, very, very good shape. But when you're small in stature, you don't have sometimes the strength, the power of the Newgardens and some of the, Graham and some of the bigger guys. And these cars are not easy to drive. So for these drivers to be as small as they are and to have the strength to be able to do the whole race is pretty remarkable. And I think that could be a little bit of a part, a little part of why he hasn't found victory lane led. I think he's had to work a little bit harder. I think in the races, these smaller drivers, and with these cars do not have power assist, no power steering whatsoever, Mark. And so you get into the race, especially on these bumpy street courses, it's not easy to turn these things.
Stingray Robb with a bit of it off. He's able to get into the runoff area, spin it around and keep going. Paul, over the past several years, these technical alliances, Paul Page, have become, I think, the norm in the NTT IndyCar Series. It kind of all started a few years ago when Mike Shank and Jim Meyer put their team together and developed that alliance at the time with Andretti Autosport and Jack Harvey, and did so well out of the gate. And now we see other alliances that have come along. We see Meyer-Shank ship theirs to Ganassi. We see Penske and Foyt joining forces. And, boy, I'll tell you what, it's really beneficial to everybody involved. And I think the economics of racing help these owners with these technical alliances, because instead of running like Chip did with 5 cars, he can run 3, but still has data from those 2 other cars.
Well, you're dead right on that one. It spreads the data, too, which is really nice. You give your technical partner, maybe he has 2 cars, and say, why don't you try this and that setting? My 3 cars will try these, especially in these early sessions, and then we all bring that data together and find out what comes. So you have a broader field from which you're pulling your data. And also then financially, you don't have to do nearly the kind of testing you would do if you were, say, a 1-car team. I do want to point out McLaughlin finally moved over to the alternate tires. He hasn't gone any faster. He's still at a 107.9, but he's certainly somebody to keep an eye on. Only 2 guys have the alternate on right now.
And we mentioned the disastrous start that he got off to last year, Davey, that in all likelihood may have cost him a legitimate shot at the championship. Scott McLaughlin, I think, scored only 2 points through the first 2 races. Yeah. And, he finished 4th at St. Pete, but had those issues at Thermal Club and finished 27th. So he's looking for a strong rebound weekend at a track where, let's see, he's got 1 top 10 and 4 starts, and he is looking for a good run this weekend to get back in that championship hunt.
Boy, right off the bat, did he show speed? Of course, that team with Penske, he's going to be fast. He's shown that he can win. But you're right that the first weekend didn't work out so good for him. When I say the first weekend, he started on the pole, so he was fast. He was on the pole, but the strategy I think got him. I think they started on the alternates. It just didn't work on their strategy, and still a good finish. But then, as you said, Thermal, what a disastrous day for him. We just don't see that very often with any of those Penske drivers, and so. That was the first one. You got to look back, with his team, though, and with the people that he's surrounded with. They're going to regroup, but they're going to come back stronger than ever. And we will be a contender in this championship when it's all said and done.
Well, Joseph was 13th at Thermal to go along with McLaughlin's 27th. And Will Power had the drive of the day, Davey, because he started 21st at Thermal, was able to finish 6th.
it seemed like he had the best race car back to Will, right? No, don't be surprised if you don't see him up front on the pole for this race. We just know how he is with qualifying, and he's ready to win again as well. I mean, I think Will, he ran good. He was coming through that field better than anybody, any of his teammates, so had a good race pace, but still not enough. That's not where you normally see those Penske guys. You don't want we're not usually talking about them going, well, he had the most position gain, because they normally don't start that far back, as we Scott Dixon getting a little bit wide, coming out of the pit lane, throwing up a little dust coming onto the racetrack.
And we will see throughout the course of this weekend, especially when we get to Sunday, Davey. Scott Dixon on that. To your point, Davey Hamilton, Scott Dixon just given a drive-through penalty for unsafe exit of the pit lane. I'm sure Scott Dixon has unpleasant flashbacks when you hear issues on the pit lane, but that's another story for another time. But but Davey, let's face it, this pit exit can get very, very interesting, especially when we're pitting under green and cars are exiting right into a tough, tight turn one.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one thing about this race course and this pit stop, this pit lane, it is slow too. It's pretty long. It's really a long pit lane. We talked about that at the thermal last week, just how long it takes you to get down pit lane and get back actually on the track where you can get after and get up to speed. This is another really long one. So when you make a pit stop, you lose a lot of time. Now the key, what happened to Scott, and better do it now than later, is you pit to the track's right. And so the fast cars are on the left, you're on the right. There's a painted line, and when you come out of pit lane, you want to just kind of head right down towards turn one, but you're not allowed to do that. There's a painted line. You have to wait until you get around that painted line, take a sharp left into turn one, just so you don't impede cars that are on the racetrack. And then he crossed over that line a little bit early, and better do it now in practice than it is the race, like you talked about, one of the biggest races in the world where he got caught speeding.
Well, and you're not going to be able to get by with that if you violate that, because there's a transponder on that race car that'll indicate to the race stewards that you have done that. And there was a bit of controversy a few years ago involving Simon Pagenaud in that very space.
Yeah, that's right. And the timelines and what these stewards could see is pretty amazing. And they have cameras from all the camera views that we have when we're at these road and street courses, because we can't see the entire track. Plus the timelines, they know, as you just said, they know when it happens, and you can't really argue. It's really pretty much black and white. As we did see, just to update, that Opato Ward didn't make it back out on racetrack, made just a few laps. He's back in. They're still looking at that left rear, it looks like.
Paul Page?
You can't emphasize too much the pits here, because they are so difficult. I mean, you talk about, okay, you can get down them now. It's difficult. It's very difficult during the race, but the problem, addition to it being curved, is it is narrow, and then right behind the pits, there's nowhere you can go. So if something happens, your ability to get away from, say, a fire or an accident is pretty difficult there. Someday I hope they take a look at that and see what they can do, but when you're constricted with a street race, sometimes you just have to take what you get.
Pretty good start to the season for Alexander Rossi in his first season with ECR. He started 20th and finished 10th at St. Pete, another top 10 finish at Thermal after he started 6th. And earlier today, our Ryan Marine caught up with Alexander Rossi.
Two-time Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach winner Alexander Rossi back at this venue. It's effectively a home race for you, racing in your home state of California. Happy memories racing here, too. What's the first memory that comes to mind when you think of this race and this event?
Probably winning it for the first time in 18 is the first thing that comes to mind. But I just loved it in 2016 when I think 4 Andretti cars qualified like last, all 4 of us. It's just such an amazing event. The fans here are incredible. It's a great part of the country this time of year, so it ticks all the boxes. So I love coming here even when you don't win, and I think that the history of this event, speaks for itself. But outside the 500, this is a race you want to be good at.
Speaking of that 2016 season, that's when the IndyCar career began for you. This is your 150th start this weekend on Sunday. Does that feel about right, or do the numbers, are they kind of hard to process?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big number. It's the first thing you have to feel is just gratitude, right, to be able to get to that point. But at the same time, it's like, wow, time goes fast, and you have to enjoy these moments. And there's still so much I want to accomplish in this sport, and just enjoy the opportunity in every race you can.
Let's focus on the here and now then. First time to Long Beach with the new team, Ed Carpenter Racing. It's been a strong start to the season so far. So how would you assess the state of the program 2 races in?
We're doing good, man. We're just trying to do our own thing. We're not really getting caught up in a huge amount of goals and expectations other than the fact that we know we have good people and we know we have the capability to perform if we just all execute and focus on doing our best and taking it one day at a time. So I think we're going to continue to grow and get stronger as the year goes on. But, I'm also excited about the opportunity that we have this weekend. I think this has been a track that hasn't necessarily been a strength of ECR's in the past, but I don't think that'll be the case this year.
Good luck to you in pursuit of win number 3 here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Yeah, good stuff, Ryan Marine and Alexander Rossi. Alex Palou with the 45-minute all-skate concluded now at a 67.636. Christian Lundgaard, 107.710. Then Newgarden. Nolan Siegel jumped up late in the session. He's 4th fastest. Then Scott McLaughlin, Felix Rosenquist, Kyle Kirkwood, Will Power, Marcus Armstrong, and Scott Dixon, the top 10. David Malukas, 11th. Pottle Ward, with all of his issues, still managed to be 12th fastest. Marcus Ericsson, 13th. Louis Foster, 14th. Graham Rahal, 15th. Callum Eilert, 16th fastest. Colton Herta, 17th. Rossi, 18th. Rasmussen, 19th. Connor Daly, 20th. Kiffin Simpson, 21st. Stingray Robb, 22nd. Robert Schwartzman, 23rd. Devlin DiFrancesco, 24th. Regis VK, 25th. Santino Ferrucci, 26th. And Jacob Abel in the 27th position. So, Davey, what is, put your race strategist hat on. What's the order of the day now for these separate 10-minute sessions?
Well, this is where I think that we're going to see more of the alternate tires be put on the car. They have a little more free track time. Try to see where they are for qualifying just to make sure that they have, a good balance for qualifying. As we always do, it doesn't matter what race it is. We continue to talk about that you want to start towards the front of this field to have a chance to win. You do, but especially on the street courses, wherever there's the least amount of passing zones, you want to be up front because it just gives you a better opportunity. So I think today, or these sessions here, free track, less cars on track, try your alternates out and just see how long you can make them last.
Even numbered pit boxes. That means Alex Palou, Scott McLaughlin, Pottle Ward, Kyle Kirkwood, Christian Rasmussen, Marcus Ericsson, Stingray Robb, and Nolan Siegel. Marcus Armstrong, David Malukas, Regis VK, Callum Eilert, Robert Schwartzman, and Louis Foster. Those are the 14 cars that have 10 minutes now, and that clock will start when the first car clears that timing and scoring loop, which will clear them and time them when we get to qualifying tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, you can join us bright and early tomorrow morning, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific time for IndyCar practice session number 2. Of course, that's the 45-minute session, and then we'll go qualifying at 2:30 Eastern and 11:30 Pacific time. It's the knockout qualifying format and the Firestone Fast 6. And then on Sunday, we'll have the final warm-up for you at noon Eastern, 9 o'clock Pacific time. And then flag-to-flag coverage of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach comes your way at 4 o'clock Eastern. And then 1 o'clock local time on Sunday. Let's go back to Ryan Marine.
Tires always so important in the NTT IndyCar Series, even as early as practice number 1. Kara Kristalik from Firestone joining us. We see a change this year with the way that practice 1 is structured, breaking it up into the all-skate and then the 2 half-group sessions. How does that affect the teams and how they approach their tire allotment, their tire strategy for the weekend?
So you couple that with the fact that teams have 5 sets of alternates and 5 sets of primaries, so a little bit of an imbalance there. Usually you would see people running a couple sets of primaries the first practice session, but you don't see that now. Of course, the rookies get the extra set, so that's good for them. So we'll see them change over to the alternates at some point. They might make it through the first 45 minutes without using them and practice it use it for the last 10 minutes. But then they can transfer that session over to another practice, and they can learn doing some long runs on it.
Another change from last year to this year, the length of this race, an additional 5 laps this time around. How do you think that impacts the tires this weekend?
So the tires this weekend are actually different in the alternate tire than they were last year. So primary is the same as what we saw last year, but this new higher degradation alternate tire, same tire we used at St. Pete this
this year. It has more drop-off on it, and it's actually going to wear out before the end of the fuel stint. So it should cause some differences in race strategies. With the increase of 5 laps, it changes some of the fuel strategies. Hopefully we don't see as much fuel savings and actually so more close wheel-to-wheel racing.
And that shows what a partner Firestone is with the series. The series wanted to change the way that the races play out. Firestone was asked to give us a tire that provides that drop-off, and that's what these alternates that we saw debut at St. Pete are effectively, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As engineers, I want to put my engineer hat on and have the perfect tire that is exactly the same through every fuel stint. But what we've decided to do is work with INDYCAR and provide a tire that actually adds good racing, causes good racing, makes things pretty interesting.
We saw the alternates really dropped off at St. Pete, but the drivers have told me the track surface here at Long Beach is quite a bit different. So how do you expect the alternates to handle the circumstances here at this particular street track?
So our tires are very diverse, so they can make a lot of different street course circuits, and they're going to be great in everyone. This is a little bit different. It's a little bit less aggressive. You get some concrete, you get some asphalt, little different surfaces. So you're going to see the tires perform a little bit differently. They're not going to have quite as much wear as you saw at St. Pete.
Really appreciate the time and the insight as always, Kara. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, good stuff as always. And Davey, let me get this straight. So the drivers and teams have asked for this deck that we have in these alternates, and that's what we've heard them bemoan. So I'm getting the impression that you guys as a lot are never satisfied, Davey. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, you pretty much hit that, right? You're gonna hit nail on the head on that one, Mark. I mean, yeah, the best of everything, and we always are gonna complain. Hey, we can be a little bit better here. We can do this different, and but with the tires, you know, you have what you have, but you know, every setup. The tires are different. I mean, they treat them different. Some setups are really hard on the tires. Some setups are pretty easy on them. And so that's one thing that right now with that alternate tire, as we see, looks like Christensen makes it, you know, he slides it in. Or I'm sorry, Rasmussen P1, but locks the tire up going into that final corner. That's not good either. So it's going to be interesting to see right here. I'm excited to see these times, see what tire. Everybody's on the alternate tires right now, other than Siegel, Schwartzman, and Abel. So these are going to be the faster times. We'll just see how long they could, keep the times up.
And the good news is, Davey, that they're all playing nice. And I mean, you should be able to on this course, quite frankly. But they all have separated themselves nicely, so they should get some pretty good qualifying sims and have a good idea what the deck's like.
Yeah, for example, McLaughlin just went by me. Nobody in front of him, and nobody. A car just went by. Next car behind him. Plenty of open track going down into turn 1. We see some in-car with him now that's taken over. Just obviously those alternate tires, and here is the green sidewall alternate tire, Mark. And but we'll see what he comes around coming off of that turn, going into turn 11 where the timeline is. When he crossed that, we'll see what kind of time he can lay down.
And Paul Davey and I have talked about this through the first couple of races, talked about it right off the top at St. Petersburg. In addition to changing the tire allotment and changing the deck on the alternates and the primaries, another thing that we like to see is the fact that some of these races like this one have been extended 5 laps or 10 laps here and there, because, Paul, that makes you roll the dice. For a lot of these races, it's not just a clear-cut 2-stop strategy anymore.
Yeah, no, they've really added something to it when they changed the distance on the race, even so slightly. Yeah, so maybe when the last time you ran it with a maybe 3-lap difference, it becomes an entirely different race when you do that. And that adds so much to it. So now you really don't find yourself depending on yellows, but in an area where in your last stint that you're necessarily guaranteed to be able to make it to the finish without more than a cup or two of fuel in your tank.
5 minutes remaining in this session. David Malukas has gone to P1 with a time of 68.1295. Then Christian Rasmussen, Scott McLaughlin, Stingray Robert Schwartzman, the top 5. And just as quickly as we give you who's at the top, it changes again. Louis Foster has gone to P1. We can tell you Siegel, Eilot, and Abel, VK are through the top 10. Then Pillow, Erickson. Speaking of Erickson, he's just gone to P1 now at a 67.3501. Armstrong's at the bottom now with Kirkwood, Pillow, VK, and Abel up through 10th. So speed starting to pick up. And Davey, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't think this is a precarious limb I'm on, but I think what they'll figure out is when it comes to qualifying, you're going to get an outlap, and then you're going to get one shot at it off of that outlap.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And you'll watch them even on the outlap. You know, a lot of times you see these drivers go out, they just get right after and try to get heat in the tires. They may even go a little bit slow until they get closer to that timeline. And you're right, they're going to get some heat in them, just enough to make them at their optimal, and then go that one lap. And I think once they do that one lap, the times are going to start falling off, as we just seen. It looks like DeFrancesco getting into the wall a little bit, white wall on the left side of his Ray Hall Letterman car.
It doesn't sound like, though, with what Alex Palou was able to do on that final stint on the alternates at Thermal Club, it doesn't sound to me like any of these drivers expect that to be the ideal strategy when we get to Sunday, does it?
Right now, from the outside looking in, just talking to people today on tire strategy a little bit. I'm going to learn more, obviously, tomorrow. I think they have a much better handle on it. But, they're kind of going, hey, it's basically the same tires we had at the first race in St. Petersburg. We've seen that the alternates fell off too fast, and this pit lane is slower overall time than St. Pete's pit lane. So I would have to think they're going to do the same strategies, like get off those as quick as possible, just run your one stint on that a sticker set of alternate tires, and then run the rest of the race on primaries. But you never know. Like I say, this track's different. It's a little bit slower overall. It's not as abrasive as St. Pete's, so it could change all of our minds what says all this rubber gets on the racetrack. Maybe it makes the tire last longer.
As we mentioned, Ryan Marine's first race with us this weekend. He's been covering a variety of series literally all across the globe, and we're happy to have him in Long Beach. There are worse places in the world to make your season debut than Long Beach, Ryan, and I'm curious, what are your thoughts and impressions as you look over the wall? In the past during these practice sessions, maybe the attention paid to these cars was a bit more leisurely, a bit more pedestrian. Is there more attentiveness, and is it confined to one certain area, shocks and springs? Or are they really paying attention to tire tag and things of that nature, measuring that tire depth and that temperature when they come into the pit box?
I think it's all across the board. I think early on in that all-skate, we definitely saw a lot of damper changes, spring changes, things of that nature, which is par for the course. But certainly here more recently, maybe the focus has been on the tires as they've swapped back and forth. I'm keeping an eye on the crew of Christian Rasmussen, who was topping the charts, 5 minutes or so ago. He's now slipped down to 7th, but did one run on the alternate greens and came back in. They made a couple of little changes, a wing change as well as some mechanical changes on that car, and just sent him back out on that same set of greens. We'll see if he's able to replicate or improve that pace on a set of used greens now effectively. But I think that kind of encapsulates what we've seen up and down the pit lane. Some teams chasing a little bit more than others, but the changes have been comprehensive across the board as the teams adapt to this adjusting racetrack.
And Davey, we have seen instances where maybe with a minute left in the sessions, some teams have struggled on Friday and they bounced back and found a little something on Saturday. That's not been as easy to do through the first 2 races this season.
Yeah, no, it really hasn't. And we look at the bottom of the chart right now, and then that's VK. And VK's actually had some pretty good runs. I mean, it finished, I think, 8th or 9th in St. Petersburg. He's been pretty respectable in that Del Coyne Racing team. First year that combination's been together. But right now, really struggling finding speed. Matter of fact, could be something wrong there, because he's like 4 seconds off the pace. That's just not like him.
So with less than 30 seconds remaining in this session, group number 1 shapes up this way. Marcus Ericsson is P1 at a 67.3503. Then Kyle Kirkwood, Marcus Armstrong, Alex Palou, and Louis Foster. They're at a 67.3523, a 67.3602, and a 67.5306. Pato Award has jumped up to P5. Then Louis Foster, 6th fastest. David Maluka, 7th. Rasmussen, McLaughlin, Stingray, Robb, Schwartzman, Eilert, Siegel, and Abel. So, Davey, we assume that through the top half of this field, the debrief will be a bit more pleasant, perhaps, than as you suggest with some of those that are toward the bottom of the field.
Yeah, well, we talked about one of them. We already talked to one of them, and that's Kirkwood. How about that P2? Former winner here. Loves coming here. The Andretti cars have been really, really fast. So, Ericsson, teammate right in front of him. So, you got a winner here, and then you got the teammate of Ericsson, and both Andretti's 1st and 2nd. And Colton hasn't even hit the track yet. We're going to see maybe Andretti could sweep that top 3 spots.
Paul?
Well, when you're looking at that, Ericsson and Kirkwood, both Andretti's, as was just said, they were languishing down around 10th place, just moving around there. And then all of a sudden, with about 2 minutes to go, they jumped up into the top 2 position. So what information did they get? And more importantly, I think, what information right now does Colton Herta have that they dial into his car, because he's out in the next group?
Well, if we mentioned that through the first 2 races of the season, Paul, they are leading a charmed existence because all of their cars have started in the top 10 through the first 2 races, and boy, that cures a lot of ills. Colton Herta told us that at Thermal Club. Look, when you unload fast to start the weekend, that solves a lot of problems.
It certainly does, and it'd be very interesting to see when Colton does actually roll out here.
Davey?
Well, look at the times, Mark, between those two, Ericsson and Kirkwood. Oh, they just, and we'll have to go to a different screen right now, but they, I mean, on top of each other, 107.350, a 107.352 is the only difference between Ericsson and Kirkwood. So teammates on top of each other, almost identical times, Mark.
And Kirkwood's going to be wondering where those 2 tenths are coming from.
Yeah, 2 100s or whatever it is, yeah. But that, yeah, it's like nothing.
yeah. So anyway, here's Group 2 for you. Colton Herta, we'll see if he can back up what his teammates have accomplished. Let's see, Will Power is in there as well. Dixon, Newgarden, Christian Lundgaard. This is going to be an interesting group. Santino Ferrucci, Felix Rosenquist, Kiffin Simpson, Graham Rahal, Connor Daly, Rossi, DeFrancesco, Schwartzman, and Louis Foster. Those are the cars that are going to be running in this particular session, and it'll get underway in about 60 seconds. And there's no question, Davey, that that, as we figured it would be, that would be the session when we would see the alternate compounds run in those qualifying sessions.
Yeah, and I think that, that's going to happen in this one. So that's a session that you definitely want to do it. 2 things happen, Mark. First of all, we already talked about there's less cars on track. You only have half the field to deal with on there, so it's easier to get open track time. Secondly, the track gets better and better on these street courses as the weekend goes. The Firestone rubber gets laid down. It gets more of the IndyCar grip that they're used to having, and so the later that you go and the later the weekend goes, the more grip these cars get. So that's another thing that's later in the session. The last time they want to be on track is with these qualifying tires, just to see what that balance is going to be and what they need to change for tomorrow's qualifying.
Well, after that 4th place finish at Thermal, IndyCar announced a penalty involving Colton Herta's team during post-race technical inspections. The series discovered the team incorrectly attached the anti-intrusion plates on the aft leg of the front lower wishbones by using only 1 plate per side of the chassis instead of 2, which is a total of 4, mandated in a Dallara bulletin released back in February. Now, the safety-inspired anti-intrusion plates, by the way, introduced to the chassis following Hinch's crash in 2015 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They were fined $25,000 and forfeit 10 championship entrant points. And Davey, that took him from 8th in points to 10th in points.
Yeah, just stuff. And how, these crew guys, they're really good, first of all. And no independent team or crew members from a team are trying to cheat. But things do get overlooked. Things happen. We know that at Thermo, that situation obviously happened. It was a bummer. We also know that with the Prima team, with Schwartzman, they had a little fire. There was a mishap in the fuel system somewhere. They also got fined and some points taken away, I think, from that team.
25,000 and 10 points for them too.
Yeah, same thing. So they're not trying to do that. It's just, man, these teams work hard. Things got overlooked, and you just got to, it's attention to detail, right? I mean, detail, everything has to be just perfect. And that team and those crew guys that they just have to focus. And by the way, they work a lot of hours. These guys work around the clock, whether they're at home or at these racetracks. So it's easy to miss little things like that. But boy, you gotta learn from them and move on.
As the second group gets underway, we'll update you on the battle for the manufacturing championship for the engine manufacturers. Honda with a good weekend at Thermal. They now lead Chevrolet 182 to 144, both looking for momentum. Headed to the big prize, the Indianapolis 500, and it's another season for the Firestone Pit Stop Performance Award. It's been dominated by Will Power's team of late, but right now it's Joseph Newgarden's team that leads that competition, followed by Award, Dixon, then Pillow, and then Kyle Kirkwood's team. So some of the additional awards and some of the additional championship battles, Davey, that we have found following throughout the course of the season.
Well, and we Mark, I know we love to keep track of all the other championships outside of just the drivers one, and I think it's cool to have awards, championships, from manufacturers. Obviously, we know Firestone and Dallara, they already got the championship one, but there's so many other ones out there that everybody strives to have, and hey, it just like, I'll be honest, honest with you, it's just like last night with the pit stop competition with the Graham Rahal. I know I've been in those situations. When you win those pit stop competitions, which I've been fortunate to do, there's energy that goes into that team, and that's just one other thing that could be won by a team, and they did it last night.
Session number 2 is underway, the second 10-minute session. Third session overall. Let's hear from a driver who recently completed his 10-minute session, Ryan Marine.
And a really strong start to the weekend for Andretti Global. Marcus Ericsson out of his Bryant machine. Now let's give fans an update on how that session went from where you were sitting.
Very good. I think we had a run plan. We wanted to get through. Did that, did some changes, gathered some good information, and we seem to be on the pace. So, as far as practice session goes, that was a very successful one.
The Andretti package on the street course at St. Pete looked really strong. Has that carried over here to Long Beach?
Yeah, definitely. I think, Andretti, we always bring really good street course cars, and have been fast here, in Long Beach always, I feel like, and also myself, I love street course racing, so that should be a good combination for us this weekend.
And finally, did you have any feedback you could give the team then to convey to Colton, because he was out after you and Kyle here?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the big strengths we have over at Andretti right now is, me, Colton, and Kyle. We work as one group. We really try and help each other, and I think that's what pushes us forward. And yeah, it will be interesting to see now how Colton goes, and we can all debrief later and come out even stronger tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks.
100 starts coming up for Marcus Ericsson, Davey, Indy 500 champion. And over those 100 starts, almost 60 of those have resulted in top 10s. Now, last year, admittedly, a struggle for Marcus Ericsson, but all in all, it seems like a stronger start to the season for him and his race team this year.
Yeah, a little bit of a struggle. You're right. We went to the Andretti team. We expected great things out of him, and just didn't really fall his way. But one thing with Marcus, too, not, growing up around ovals, he sure has a special spot for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He always is really tough. There's a one at once, ran second once. I mean, he's always in contention there, and I expect that's the biggest race in the world, and he's been able to win it, so that's obviously a feather in his cap. But I think, now that he's on pace, as he just talked about, he's right with his teammates. They're working really well together, and they seem really fast right now all the time, yeah.
So, Paul, regardless of what happens and where you finish, the debrief, obviously, tonight is very, very important. But I've often speculated that the most important debrief for a lot of these race teams is the one that'll be following that final practice session tomorrow before we go qualifying tomorrow afternoon.
Well, absolutely. This one is important because it is the setup for qualifying, so when they're done here, that's going to be serious. But tomorrow, now you've got to shift your thinking entirely. You've got to figure out the race, and that setup and that process is so entirely different than a qualifying setup. So, yep, you sit down, and if you've ever sat in one of those, I mean, they go over every tiny detail, including many of the cars have cameras that are not the regular on-the-air television cameras, but like down on the wishbones and everything, and they roll that and they say, here's where you were on this lap, and then you moved here. That was a little faster. There are detailed beyond all belief. So guys like you and I, we got to wait outside the trailers for hours for them to come back out.
5.5-minute mark of this session, the final one of the day. Daly, Dixon, Rahal, Simpson, and Lundgaard right now are fastest. Connor's time at a 68.1118. DeFrancesco is 6th. Ferrucci, Abel, and Rossi. Rosenquist through 10th. Then Power, Foster, Newgarden, and Colton Herta has yet to turn laps. And, Davey, we have seen teams do this throughout these first couple of when they get this 10-minute session. Colton has been one of those, if memory serves me correctly, that decided to wait until about the 4 or 5 minute mark of the session because they want to do a true qualifying sim, maybe. They want to go out, do that out lap, and then run that qualifying sim.
That's right, and everybody has their different strategies, right? And I think the confidence that Colton has around here and that team obviously has with the speed of their cars, that's exactly what I think they're going to do, Marcus, is they'll wait till the end of the session, let everybody kind of go out, see what the numbers are. As we talked about, the track gets better as the laps go down on this. As time goes, the lap gets better and better. And so I think you're right. I think he's going to wait till the end. He'll go out, probably do a install lap, so to speak, where he goes out and in, gets everything warmed up in the car, puts some alternates on, and go lay down a lap.
4.5 minutes remaining in this session, a little bit less than that. Joseph Newgarden has gone to P1 with a 67.53, and then Daly is at a 68.1118. then Dixon, Rahal. Now Schwartzman has jumped up to third with Dixon and Rahal just behind. Simpson, Lundgaard, DeFrancesco, Louis Foster, Ferrucci, Abel, Rossi, Rosenquist, and Power. Scott Dixon told us earlier today, Davey, that one of the things that he likes about this race is that with all of the activity on this racetrack over the course of the weekend, this thing really has a tendency to grip up, and that's why we start to see people going faster a little bit later on in this day.
Yeah, he's right. It does really grip up. You think the track's good, and it does feel good, but every time, and you know what, it grips up enough. For example, you know, you may go down into turn 7 and an 8 and know that the grip level is high, but then when it comes to qualifying time, you think, man, I didn't give it enough. There's more grip yet. Every time you go on track, just seems to be more and more grip. So you're exactly right, and Scott knows it. I mean, it's something that's been part of this racetrack for a long, long time, and not just this one. It's partially the situation where every car, every team has their plan, and then when you go out at the end of these runs, that is where you're gonna get the speed, and everybody's different. But we're gonna watch Colton Herta, I think, probably put it towards the front.
Turn 9 runoff area for the MyJack machine of Louis Foster, and he's looked like he's trying to get that thing to regenerate so he can get that restarted by his lonesome. And Davey, you're watching the replay right now.
So one thing, what happened, he got in long, and then he went to spin around, and sometimes you can't get him spun around. And if you stall now, here's the good news. With the hybrid system, they do have starters on these cars. If there's enough energy inside of that hybrid system, they can start these cars. He can back it up. But he's kind of in an awkward position because he's really 90 degrees to the wall, so there's not a lot of room. You may have to kind of shimmy kind of in and out, back and forth a few times to get out of there. But he did not hit anything. Just needs to get it fired up and maybe backed up, and hopefully a yellow doesn't come out.
Kind of a similar situation. I'm going to date myself here to the Austin Powers movie when he was on the pull cart trying to turn it around. So
I was going to say that wasn't quite that tight, but that's right, yeah.
So, and he's going to bring out the red. So that will stop the clock, though. But I think what that's going to do is that's going to perhaps change the thought process a little bit for some of these teams, because with 2:09 remaining in the clock, this will be an opportunity for that outlap and that qualifying, Sam, and that'll be about it.
Yeah, no, and one thing they'll need to do is make sure they spread themselves out so you have clean track time. And one thing, Mark, you asked me a little bit earlier about the bump down that back straightaway.
Wow, I just saw it.
Did you just see that? Yeah. I mean, it's still definitely there. When you get to driver's left, it really bounces the car pretty darn good, and so it's so easy to lock your tires up there. Now you can stay to the right. If you pull down about 3/4 of a car length, you miss that bump or pretty much miss it. It's just much smaller. Downside with that, Mark, is you don't have the proper angle of that corner. You have to slow down. You're just turning so much. So man, it's give and take there. But you can definitely see that bump is still there.
And if you get early on in the race, or you get in a restart and you're side by side there, that's a potential problem too.
You want to just honestly, you just tap out. Just let the guy on the inside go by you and wait for another day to get it back, because you try to outbrake him. If you're on that side, you're going to be in trouble.
When have you ever known a race car driver to exercise discretion as the better part of valor?
Well, you know what? I have to say, sometimes you see Scott Dixon. That guy, you know.
Well, okay. Well, good point.
I'll give one of them out there, but majority of the time, no. It's absolutely go for it. And we were talking about, you know, some racers earlier, and one thing that I think is really key, and we're talking about Palou, is you see drivers really fast early in the race and really laying it down and thinking how fast they are, and they're looking really good. But it's drivers like Palou that are really fast at the end of these races. It's like he just kind of hangs out at the start, but at the end is where he gets strength. He comes on faster and faster and gets the most out of the car at the end. And I think that's one little magical thing that Palou has going for him over some of these other drivers.
Well, that's where the trust factor comes in with Barry Wanzer, because Alex Palou trusts him enough that Alex will control what he can control, and what he can't, he puts into the hands of Barry Wanzer, because he knows, at least through the first couple of races, that Barry's going to make the right call 99 to 9/10% of the time.
Yeah, right. I mean, Barry, what a combination they all have. We've talked about that many times. And there's other combinations down this pit lane that have really good, relationships, and they work really well together. We talk about Hull and Dixon. They've been together a long, long time. The engineering staff's there. But man, when you click on, and it seems like right now with Barry and Palou, they really have some magic going right now, and they're really taking advantage of it.
Now, they were encouraging teams to hightail it off of pit rows. As a matter of fact, the 30-second window is closed. So here we go, Davey. We'll have a pretty good idea after this session where these teams are instead of their qualifying setups. And Paul Page, it's go time for these teams and drivers. They get that out lap. They got to separate themselves, and then they get one qualifying sim.
Yeah, while that clock is running down, but no go is Brian Herta. He's still sitting in the pits, hasn't taken a lap in this session at all.
That'd be interesting. And matter of fact, I think Joseph Newgarden, who's currently P1, Davey, we're seeing on our monitor that Joseph's out of the car doing the debrief already.
Yeah, I think he's had enough. I think he knows where he's at, and even if he doesn't finish on top of the charts, you know, matter of fact, he would be third over, actually fourth overall, I think. Fourth overall between the two groups. But Colton Herta right now, free track ahead of him. He's been by the timeline. He's going down. He just smoked by me down the front straightaway. We're going to keep an eye on Colton Herta and see what kind of lap he can turn right now. But I think Newgard back to him. He's P1 of this session, P4 overall right now. But that's close enough. You don't need to be the fastest right now.
At least early on, things looking up for Juncos Hollinger and their driver, Connor Daly. He's made 7 starts here. He missed a race in 2018 and 2024. He finished 12th in 2022, and he's finished 13th. I remember one race weekend, Davey, that he didn't even get in the car until Sunday morning.
Yeah, remember that. Yeah, no, he hasn't had the best of luck here. That is for darn sure. And matter of fact, remember this. And Paul, you'll be the one to correct me on this, but I think his dad was in the first Formula One race ever held here, if I recall.
Yeah,
so,
he was.
Yeah.
There were, in those days, you know, Sullivan was in there. A lot of the guys who are prominent now did pass through Formula One on the way.
So Joseph Newgarden is P1, but he is out of the car, and the checkered flag flies. So let's see what Colton Herta is able to do. And Davey, he jumps it up to P2 at a 67.6632.
Yeah, there you go. Really good lap, and I apologize. The timeline is off at turn 11, not going into turn 11, Mark. I misjudged that one, but as he came off there, man, he went through that hairpin very, very quickly, laid it on the line. But there you go. I mean, another great run by the way, he made 2 laps. There was one get up to speed lap and one speed lap, and he put himself P2.
Well, that puts all 3 of their cars in the top 6 overall, Davey, in the combined sessions 1 through 3. So it is clear Andretti has yet again unloaded awfully fast.
Yeah, well, now it's 1 through 7, being that Rosenquist just went across that line, put himself in P4, right, where he could run for Armstrong. So right now you got Andretti with Ericsson and Kirkwood. You got Armstrong and Rosenquist. How about that? Those teammates, put it in second or third and fourth. Pretty impressive. Now they're faster than the Ganassi cars, by the way, and they're data engineers or their partners are with Ganassi.
And don't look now, but Will Power has gone to P1 late in the session.
Oh, look at there. Yes, he sure did. Just popped up, blocked my screen there. But how about 107.32? Great run. Barely beats those 2 guys, but enough to get it done. And we talked earlier about how good Will Power is here and how good he is for qualifying. So, like I say, don't be surprised if we don't see him pacing this race on Sunday.
6 consecutive top 10s for Will Power here. 15 overall. He won in 2012 and with a Champ Car World Series in 2008, and this would be pole number 4 if he's able to get it on Saturday, Davey.
There you go. Right, just continues to build that the overall pole lead up, and I won't be surprised. But I'll tell you, I am Meyer Shank. I'm telling you, I think those guys are doing a really good job with that team. I think the drivers are working well together, and I know Power's on top, and there's some Andretti cars, but pretty impressive with Rosenquist and in that Meyer Shank team.
Well, you know, the first couple of years that Meyer Shank came into the series, it was a very measured approach to them. A handful of races with Jack Harvey, who ran well here, as a matter of fact, and then they bumped it up to 10 before they went full time. And let's face it, early on, I think Mike Shank would be the first one to tell you it was their alliance at the time with Andretti that allowed them to kind of put that race team together and start to be competitive. And they moved on to Ganassi, and it looks as though this relationship has worked out as well.
Yeah, it really is. And you know what I really like about those alliances is they're giving them everything. I mean, I've been part of the Colton Herta when we were Harding Racing when we had the Andretti one, and he did they were giving us everything. We went out and won races. We were beating them at times. So they weren't holding back. They want whatever team they're doing alliances with to be successful.
Let's head to the pit lane, check in with Ryan Marine.
Yeah, Graham Rahal right out of the number 15 fleet caustic care. Had just got a quick debrief in with your team. What was the message?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately went red during our kind of out lap, which these tires only last one lap, so that really kind of put a little kink in our flow there. But, you know, look, we're not good enough anyway. I mean, we definitely do not have the speed to be competitive just yet. I'm sure there's a lot of guys feeling the same as us, but the hybrid weight here has really made the rear of my car pretty poor this year as compared to years past. So we've got some work to do overnight for sure.
Do want to quickly ask about the addition to the team off the track. Jay Fry coming over, joining the leadership group. Early days, but what does Jay bring to this operation?
I mean, Jay's a great man, and I'm very, very excited to have him as part of this organization. I think he'll help us move this team forward in a hurry, so I'm looking forward to that.
All right, thank you, Graham.
Well, one thing's for sure, Davey, Graham Rahal has the race pace, but we've been waiting for a couple of years now for them to get things figured out in terms of their qualifying setups, and hopefully that's what Jay Fry will be able to do for them.
Yeah, no, one thing with Jay, you know, he's not an engineer. He's not going to go build those race cars. Jay is the guy to overlook the entire team. He's going to look over that entire team, find the weak spots, find their strengths, and hopefully mesh those together and try to just make that team better. And I think, as Graham said, he's excited for him to be there. I think Jay can get the job done. And that is a challenge, you know, because like I say, he's not in that engineering room. He's not building the cars down on the floor. But he's in charge of hiring the proper people to do those jobs. And there may be some changes there. We'll have to wait to see. And when it maybe changes, not so much of getting rid of people and bringing new people in that could be better. It could be just changes within the organization itself, just changing people around on the different cars. And hopefully he'll see all that and make it best for everybody involved.
One lone red flag over the 3 sessions all told, Davey. So all in all, a clean start to the weekend. Let's knock wood, huh?
Yeah, knock on some wood. And by the way, that was just a spin and couldn't get it out of, as you said, the Austin Powers hallway. And that was it. So it was quick. Got him turned around and off Foster went. And now we're complete with practice number 1 here at Long Beach.
Yeah, we're ready for practice number 2 tomorrow. Paul, thanks for joining us this afternoon. I know the folks enjoyed it, and I know that when I extended the invitation, said, "Hey, you want to join us for practice at Long Beach?" I don't think I'd twist your arm very hard.
Yeah, no, you didn't. I got in the chair, I think, for you. Saw me get into it. And Davey, no, he didn't race at Long Beach, but he drove Minardi in Formula One at one time.
Oh, there you go. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I thought he was here, but anyway, you know, Derek, obviously, he was the start of that whole the daily legacy, so I'm sure he's here celebrating.
Overall, Will Power, P1, then Erickson, Kirkwood, Armstrong, and Rosenquist. Newgarden, 6th, below 7th, Herta, 8th. Lundgaard, 9th, 10th, Dixon, 11th, Siegel, 12th, McLaughlin, 13th, Award, 14th, Daly, 15th, Foster, 16th, Maluka, 17th, DeFrancesco, 18th, Simpson, 19th, Ferrucci, 20th, Rahal, 21st, Schwartzman. Then we go to 22nd, Christian Rasmussen, Stingray Robb, 23rd, Callum Milot, 24th, Alexander Rossi, 25th, Renus TK, 26th, and Jacob Abel, 27th. Again, a busy day tomorrow. And at 11:30 Eastern, join us for practice session number 2. And then that takes the air at 8:30 Pacific time. And then knockout qualifying of the Firestone Fast 6 at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 local time before we have a final warm-up on Sunday. And then the 50th anniversary of the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. The director of IndyCar Radio is Chris Pollock, who also handled master control operations, on-site production and engineering courtesy of Rick Evans. For Ryan Marine, Jonathan Grace, and Davey Hamilton, and also Paul Page, this is Mark James saying so long for now from the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach.
Thank you to the IndyCar Radio for their coverage of this practice session. And we shall be getting ready for the NASCAR Truck Series in a couple moments' time. You'll be redirected to that broadcast straight away at the conclusion of this one. So make sure to join us for that. For IndyCar, though, let me just quickly give you the times in BST, as you've had the times for Eastern and Pacific already. Free practice 2, 4:30 p.m. BST. Qualifying 7:30 p.m. BST. And then on Sunday, warm-up is at... Well, we don't actually have warm-up on the schedule. I'll have to check with JB if we are streaming that. But the Grand Prix is live from 9:30 with a green flag of 9:47. But make sure to join us for the Truck Series. You'll automatically be redirected. The stream's just starting now. See you over there.